moderators, good afternoon, participants. My presentation is the potential for lean agribusiness in the Caribbean. My co-authors are Dana Basdeo, Duban Simulus, Monique Murray, and Robert Birch. So first, I take a little look at agribusiness in the Caribbean. We are all aware that disasters are especially devastating for Caribbean economies, and islands that depend on agricultural produce are especially hard hit. Grenada, for example, had their nutmeg industry decimated by a hurricane in our recent past. So disasters such as floods, hurricanes, earthquakes all have a devastating effect on agribusiness within the Caribbean. Yet still, some of our islands depend heavily on agribusiness. In addition to that, issues like competition, and particularly the removal of tariff barriers, have also dealt a huge blow to agribusiness within the Caribbean. Often, a lot of persons who depend on agriculture live in rural areas that do not have the type of infrastructure present in the urban areas. There are issues with market access, issues with integration along value chains. In fact, except for maybe one or two examples, we exist at the very lowest rung of global value chains. While there are other parts of the value chains that may make up to 1,000% profit on some of the agricultural goods that we produce here in the Caribbean. We end up continuing to have a very high food import bill, and another challenge that we have is the size of our markets, the size of our economies. Sartolo et al. Looked at the use of the Toyota production system in the Brazilian sugar cane industry. As you know, it's a major industry in Brazil, and not only important for cane, but other purposes as well. And they used the Likers 14 principles to come up with a tool, a research tool that they used to investigate how the Toyota production system could assist the Brazilian sugar cane industry. They utilized interview, site visits, and observations, all of which were involved also in my study, and as well as other methods. In the case of Gombalevich, this was actually a thesis, and they looked at the US food industry, comparing it to old mass manufacturing from the 20th century in the US. So I asked myself, why would they, and it was kind of disparaging how they did it. So why would they, I mean, this is the US. Why is mass manufacturing not suitable for the US as opposed to what they were suggesting, a lean system? The US has the economies of scale, for example, that the Caribbean does not have. But anyway, that kind of motivated me to look at the application of lean in agribusiness in the Caribbean. So the study just had three major objectives, and I must say that this is just part of a much larger project. I looked at 3 different countries in this project. I want to extend it to the entire CARICOM region. So my 3 objectives were looking at major issues in Caribbean agribusiness, developing and using a research tool underpinned by Womack and Jones' 5 principles of lean and Taichi Una's definition of the 7 ways, in addition to the 8th one that came after, of course, and to design a lean agribusiness implementation tool for the Caribbean. Those were the objectives. So for this study, I looked at 3 different cases in 3 different countries. One, of course, was my country, Trinidad and Tobago. The case, and Trinidad and Tobago is the south of the Caribbean. And the case was in Trinidad. I looked at St. Kitts and Nevis, focusing on the case of Nevis Island Administration. And I looked at the case of Haiti, focusing on Lake High and environs, which is in the southwest peninsula of the island, of the country, I should say. So these are the general demographics. This is from the CIA World Factbook. The population of Haiti, 11 million, with 27,000 square kilometers and GDP of just $1,800. To compare that to St. Kitts and Nevis, which is just 261 square kilometers and has a GDP of $28,200. And Trinidad and Tobago, which is in between with square kilometers, 5,000, and GDP just slightly more than St. Kitts and Nevis at 31,300 GDP per capita purchasing power parity. So the methodology involved mainly case studies, interviews, observations in Haiti and St. Kitts. I also had conducted workshops and collected some participant feedback, which was generally informal feedback, but it helped me to learn a bit more about what was happening in those areas. In Trinidad and Tobago, the results were presented to the case, the company we were studying, and we did receive some feedback. Actually, a model was presented to them, and then the tool was actually developed. So in St. Kitts and in Haiti, looked in the general area of Lake High. And in Lake High, what's produced? Haiti is famous for the mangoes. Haiti is famous for vetiver. Haiti produces a lot of ground provisions, staples, as we know, that they could make flour, etc. from, but very little processing is actually done with it. And they don't have like the packaging companies, etc. that we have. Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis. I look at the Nevis Island Administration, Department of Agriculture, Agro-Processing Unit. I would have been interviewing the permanent secretary, the ICA rep, and persons who actually work in the department. Pardon me?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, I thought I started late. Right. Let me jump then. Okay. So we looked at the major problems in all the different territories, and there were some issues that ran throughout the 3 territories. Oh yes, 10 minutes to present. Okay. There were some issues that ran through the 3 territories, and based on that, there was evidence found that all the different types of waste existed, especially these that you see on the screen: inventory, spoilage, overproduction, the underutilization of skills, and excessive transport. In addition, the products that they focused on, they never did value stream analysis. And in fact, the products that they focused on were not of the highest value. So value definition was not there. So this is what we came up with. We came up with what I call the CARICOM Lean Agriculture System, or the CLASS. And the CLASS has an acronym, CHART-PC. So CHART-PC, customer input, high value product, analyze value stream, regional and local integration, the test market, lean small batch production, and a continuous learning program. So to conclude, Lean may present benefits to the sector, but a holistic approach is needed. The philosophy of Lean must first be accepted, but natural inclination of the participants is to be anti-Lean. Continuous learning is integral to the process, and it may be necessary to integrate activities with other sectors such as tourism. And those are some references. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Cilla.
Yes.
So the participant can ask a question now, to ask their question.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
So our first question is, what was the cost involved? Ooh, no, we don't have any questions so far. Okay.
Okay, what is the difference between the lean and the mass manufacturing? The lean. What is the difference between the lean and the mass?
Oh, okay. So mass production is based on economies of scale. You have to make a lot at a very low unit cost in order to make a profit. And lean production is based on economies of scope, where you can make products in small batches and still be profitable. The enabling technology for mass production was standardization of parts. The enabling technology for lean production is rapid changeovers. You have to be able to switch very fast, and you have to be very flexible. But you don't need to make large amounts of something to be profitable at it. That's why I'm thinking it should be better for the Caribbean, as opposed to places where you have these massive production.
My question is, I mean, you're looking at agribusiness. So we're looking at agro-processing specifically.
I'm looking at everywhere along the value chain.
Along the value chain?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking of, okay, let's look at food cycles. Starting with the simplest thing, lettuce. That's a 4 to 6 week cycle.
Right.
If I, as a farmer, I'm trying to make money off of this.
Right.
Can you describe how I'm going to apply lean to this scenario?
Well, I believe that the main thing that you would have to do is to match your production to the demand. I could give an example, right? Well, one of the, in my conclusions / recommendations, I said was that you may have to be integrated with other industries such as tourism. So, for example, I worked with, did a bit of work with Tobago Cocoa Farmers Association, and they're doing cocoa and planting herbs underneath the cocoa plants. But even before they went to the hotels, found out what they wanted, and the hotels were like, okay, you deliver this to us and we will take it as we need it, okay? So I think that as far as lettuce is concerned, okay, you can't do it. I mean, it's fresh, it's a fresh produce. You can't do very much processing with it, but you line it up with the customers. And that is something as well that was missing when we looked at the 3 different islands.
Let's see.
So that's
Professor
just,
Ekwe
just
has a
in
question.
Yes.
Yeah. How are we sure that the lean process will work in the Caribbean culture?
Okay. The thing is that we have to design it to work. I think the biggest challenge for it working is the fact that we import so many of our inputs. So therefore, we are not able, we are importing in bulk and not utilizing it. So therefore, there is some type of imbalance. And you know, lean is all about balancing everything out and operating every part of your value stream according to the demand at the end of your value stream. So one of the things I integrated into the model was actually trying to see what indigenous value streams we can actually create. So for example, the Leeward Islands get supplies from Dominica, which is higher up in the chain. The Trinidad and Tobago gets raw material supplies from islands that are a little lower down, like St. Vincent and Grenada. And that's one way that we could, you know, do some, for example, if we had to make gluten-free flour, for example, we can use our own products, which I saw some of the islands already doing very well, like Nevis. They make their gluten-free products and gluten-free flour, and they also make products from it, like bread and pizza and bread, pizza, lollies, ice lollies. And it's all local except for maybe plastic packaging.
Okay, I think I have one more question, if my co-moderator will allow me.
Yeah.
How can this lean
because
agribusiness tool help farmers? Okay.
Yeah, you can ask your question now.
Yeah. Tool help farmers. How can this lean agribusiness tool help farmers in Trinidad and Tobago improve their operational efficiency?
The challenges, some of the challenges actually do not have to do with their performance per se, because they know what they have to do. But sometimes farmers, what I have found, they have cash flow problems. Cash flow problems because they have to put out money upfront to be doing work for which they don't have immediate sales, etc. Doing stuff in small batches instead. For example, planting an acre at a time and staggering it. And I do something called a farm plan as well. So that you always have something to sell and you always have a cash flow, and it's planned from upfront. So I'm thinking that using this small batch production system and integrated further down the chain, doing some type of value add to it, could actually improve the farmers, you know, cash flow, the efficiency. They have more cash readily available to do the things that they need to do, and they'll better be able to be flexible and line up with customer demand. Instead of forcing people to take stuff when they don't want it, and you know, and then at other times they don't have the supply.
One question: did you review Curtis Stone's Urban Farmer book for your study?
Curtis Stone's Urban Farmer book? No.
Yeah, I think it will make interesting reading to combine what Curtis Stone has been doing with what it is you're attempting to do in terms of installing the lean production in farming systems. other than
Is
just Curtis
Curtis
Stone.
Stone a Trinidadian?
No, he's not. But his methods are something that I would confess that I use. And then you mix what he is doing with permaculture, and you avoid a lot of other things. It's something, if we wish, we can speak about that some other time. Okay? I believe.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cilla Benjamin. Pemberton, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Cilla. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.